As a famous musician and composer, Willie Nelson is known for his distinctive sound and his ability to combine musical styles. He and Kristofferson were among the original members of the Highwaymen. Willie overcame obstacles on his way to success in his career. Kris is one of the greatest composers he has ever known, and he has recently praised him. However, Willie has revealed a terrible truth about Kris. So, what is it? Did their band or his passing have anything to do with it? This tragic truth has been confirmed by Willie Nelson, 93, and we invite you to watch the video to find out more. Early life of Willie Nelson. First things first. Before we get into the specifics of this reality, let's take a look at Willie Nelson's early life and career. Ira Doyle Nelson and Merle Marie Greenhawk welcomed their son, Willie Nelson, into the world on the 29th of April, 1933, in the town of Abbott, Texas. On the other hand, Dr. F.D. Sims made the error of recording his birth date as the 30th of April. His cousin Mildred was the one who gave Willie his name, and she also gave him the middle name Hugh as a tribute to her brother, who had died away not too long before. One of Willie's ancestors, John Nelson, also served as a major during the American Revolutionary War. Willie's family history may be traced back to this period. In the year 1929, his parents relocated from Arkansas to Texas in the hope of finding employment. His father was a mechanic, and his grandpa, William, was a blacksmith. His grandfather was also a blacksmith. It wasn't long after Willie was born that his mother left, and shortly after that, his father remarried and went away as well. Willie and Bobby, Willie's sister, were brought up by their grandparents, who had been music teachers in Arkansas while they were growing up. They offered their grandkids encouragement to participate in musical activities. On the year when Willie was 6 years old, his grandpa gave him a guitar and instructed him on the chords. Both he and Bobby sang gospel music in the church that they attended. The first song that Willie ever composed was when he was 7 years old, and by the time he was 9 years old, he was playing guitar in a local band called Bohemian Polka. The family worked in Abbott during the summer picking cotton with other people, but Willie did not love it. As a result, he began earning money by singing when he was 13 years old. This behavior persisted throughout his time in high school. Jimmie Rodgers, Hank Williams, Bob Wills, and a great number of other musicians were among the performers who had an impact on Willie. Willie attended Abbott High School, where he participated in many sports, including baseball, basketball, and football. Moreover, he was a member of the Future Farmers of America and reared pigs. While he was still in school, he was a member of a band named the Texans, which was directed by Bud Fletcher, who was also the husband of his sister. He sang and played guitar in the band. Honky-tonks were the venues where the band performed, and they also had a place on a local radio station on Sunday mornings. Willie entered the United States Air Force and served for 9 months after graduating from high school in 1950. However, he was released owing to back difficulties 9 months later. After his return in 1952, he wed Martha Matthews and attended Baylor University for 4 years, from 1954 to 1956, to study agriculture. However, he eventually left the university to concentrate on his musical career. His employment history included stints as a tree trimmer, a saddle maker, a part salesman, and a bouncer, among other occupations. Willie ultimately relocated to Pleasanton, Texas, with his family. While there, he tried out for a position as a DJ at K-Bop, even though he had no prior experience working in the radio industry. He was hired for the position, and in 1955, he recorded his first recordings, which were titled "The Storm Has Just Begun" and "When I've Sung My Last Hillbilly Song." He used the equipment that was provided by the station. Despite the fact that he sent these demos to Sarg Records, they were not accepted. After that, he went on to work for other radio stations and started playing in nightclubs. As a result of his inability to find a job in San Diego, he hitchhiked to Portland, Oregon, where his mother resided. He had lived in San Diego for a short period of time. In the end, he made it to Portland with the assistance of a truck driver who gave him a loan of $10 to purchase a bus ticket. This was after a lengthy trek that included sleeping in a ditch. Considering Willie's difficult history and the numerous obstacles he has faced, is a career in music the best option for him? Additionally, what is the most devastating reality that Willie has acknowledged regarding Kristofferson? Find out more by staying tuned. Willie's early music career. After obtaining a position at KVN, a radio station located in Vancouver, Washington, Willie Nelson began making frequent appearances on a television show. On the reverse side of his debut recording, which was titled No Place for Me and was released in 1956, was Leon Payne's song Lumberjack. There was no success with the record. In addition to continuing his employment as a radio announcer, Willie continued to play in bars in Vancouver. Additionally, before relocating to Springfield, Missouri, he was a performer in a nightclub located in Colorado. He worked as a dishwasher when he was unsuccessful in his attempt to secure a slot on the Ozark Jubilee show. Nevertheless, he was dissatisfied with his position, so he relocated back to Texas. After a brief stay in Waco, he eventually made his home in Fort Worth and gave up music for almost 1 year. Later on, he worked his way up to the position of sales manager for the Encyclopedia Americana, having previously worked as a salesman for vacuum cleaners and Bibles. The relocation of the family to Houston occurred in 1958, following the birth of his son, Billy. While Willie was on his way, he made a stop at the Esquire Ballroom to attempt to sell his tunes to Larry Butler, who was a member of the house band. Butler did not purchase the song Mr. Record Man, but rather lent Willie $50 to rent an apartment and provided him with a 6-night concert at the club without asking for anything in return. The flat that Willie rented in Pasadena, Texas, was where he worked as a radio DJ in addition to his performance career. The Storm Has Just Begun and What a Way to Live, Misery Mansion, were the titles of 2 tracks that he recorded during this period for Pappy Daly on D Records. Man with the Blues was the title of the first single. In addition to that, Willie began teaching guitar at the music school owned by Paul Buskirk. It was for $50 that he sold his song Family Bible to Buskirk, and Nightlife paid him $150 for it. In the year 1960, Claude Gray produced the popular film Family Bible. When Willie relocated to Nashville, Tennessee, in 1960, he was unsuccessful in his search for a record label that would sign him. Tootsie's Orchid Lounge was a bar located close to the Grand Ole Opry that was frequented by a large number of singers and songwriters. He spent a significant amount of time there. He was able to make the acquaintance of Hank Cochran, who was employed by Pamper Music, a publishing business that was controlled by Ray Price and Hal Smith. Cochran was successful in persuading his employer to offer Willie a weekly salary of $50 in order to get him to join the firm. Farron Young decided to record the song Hello Walls after hearing Willie perform it. The song went on to become a hit in 1961 and brought Willie to the notice of more people throughout the country as a songwriter. The song Nightlife by Willie Jones was also covered by Ray Price. By August of 1961, Willie Nelson had already secured a recording contract with Liberty Records and was already recording at Bradley Studios in Nashville. By the following year, he had recorded his first 2 successful singles, Willingly, which became his first hit and reached number 10, and Touch Me, which was his second hit, and reached its highest position at number 7. He wed Collie in Las Vegas in 1963. The wedding took place in 1963. Later on, he found employment at Pamper Records in California, but he eventually left the company since it did not provide him with the time to create his own music. It was at Ridgetop, Tennessee, close to Nashville, that he purchased a ranch. The recording of his debut album for RCA, titled Country Willie His Own Songs, took place in April of 1965. It was in the same year that he became a member of the Grand Ole Opry and developed a friendship with Waylon Jennings after seeing one of his performances in Phoenix, Arizona. In 1967, he established a supporting band that he dubbed the Record Men. Other members of the band included Johnny Bush, Jimmy Day, Paul English, and David Zettner. The early years of Nelson's career were not marked by a string of significant hits at RCA Victor, but from November 1966 and March 1969, his singles consistently made it into the top 25. By 1970, the majority of Nelson's songwriting money had been spent on tours that did not generate a significant amount of revenue. In the same year, he also divorced Shirley Colley likewise. His marriage to Connie Kepke took place when he relocated to a ranch close to Bandera, Texas. Beginning at the beginning of 1971, his song, I'm a Memory, made it into the top 30. After recording his final single for RCA, which was titled Mountain Dew, in late April 1972, RCA approached him with a request to extend his contract early. implying that they would not release his most recent tracks if he did not comply. Nelson made the decision to resign from the music industry despite the fact that his contract had not yet expired. He was dissatisfied with the failure of his albums, particularly with Yesterday's Wine. Nelson relocated to Austin, Texas, where he found that the expanding hippie music scene provided him with a sense of revitalization. His distinctive mixture of country music, folk music, and jazz influences contributed to his growing reputation in Austin. His music was a unique fusion of these genres. At the Dripping Springs Reunion, a country music event that lasted for 3 days, he gave a performance on the final day of the festival in March. Even though the event did not draw the anticipated number of attendees, it served as motivation for Nelson to establish his very own yearly celebration, which he named the 4th of July Picnic. Beginning the following year, Nelson decided to resume his career in recording. As his manager, he recruited Neil Reshen, who assisted him in negotiating with RCA to terminate his contract for a sum of $14,000. Following that, Reshen made Nelson the first country musician to be signed to Atlantic Records on the condition that he receive a yearly salary of $25,000. By February 1973, he had already established his backup band, which he called The Family, and was in the process of recording his legendary album Shotgun Willie at Atlantic Studios in New York City. Shotgun Willie was released in May of 1973 and garnered positive reviews. Nonetheless, it did not perform well in terms of sales. Nelson subsequently stated that the album was like cleaning his throat, which is a reference to the fact that it signified a change in Nelson's performance manner. Phases and Stages, his subsequent album, was released in the year 1974. Based on his own personal experience, it had to do with the dissolution of a marriage. The lady's perspective was presented in the first half of the album, while the male perspective was presented in the second half. Before we go into this devastating reality, let's take a look at the early years of Kris Kristofferson's life. In his younger years, Kris Kristofferson received his schooling. Marianne Kristofferson and Lars Henry Kristofferson, who served as an officer in the United States Army Air Corps and ultimately rose to the rank of Major General in the United States Air Force, were the parents of Kristoffer Kristofferson, who was born in Brownsville, Texas. It was his father who inspired him to pursue a career in the military when he was a youngster. Although Kristofferson spent his childhood moving about quite a bit due to his father's employment in the military, the family finally made their home in San Mateo, which is located in the state of California. After receiving his diploma from San Mateo High School in 1954, he enrolled at Pomona College to pursue a career in writing. His early work earned him accolades, and 2 of his pieces, The Rock and Gone Are the Days, were published in the Atlantic Monthly. He has received several awards for his writing. The Rock is a topographical landmark that is shaped like a lady, and the other narrative is about an incident that occurred between people of different races. When Kristofferson was 17 years old, he accepted a challenging summer work with a dredge contractor on Wake Island, which is located in the Pacific Ocean. He subsequently referred to this position as the most difficult job he had ever had. During his time at Pomona College, he was featured in Sports Illustrated in 1958 for his achievements in the sports of rugby, football, and track and field. This brought him immediate national notoriety. His efforts were instrumental in reviving the Claremont College Rugby Club, which continues to function to this day. With excellent honors, summa cum laude, and membership in Phi Beta Kappa, he received his Bachelor of Arts degree in literature in 1958. He also received the honor of being chosen to Phi Beta Kappa. In an interview that took place in 2004, he claimed that Frederick Sontag, a professor of philosophy, was a significant influence on this individual. Additionally, fellow musicians Johnny Cash and Rita Coolidge were there when Kris Kristofferson was presented with an honorary degree in fine arts from Pomona College in 1973. This event took place during Alumni Weekend. He received the honor from Professor Sontag, who served as his mentor. During the year 1958, Kris Kristofferson was awarded a Rhodes Scholarship, which allowed him to further his education at the University of Oxford from Merton College. In addition to playing rugby and beginning to write songs, he was awarded a Blue for boxing when he was attending Oxford. He became acquainted with Michael Fried, a fellow Rhodes Scholar and poet. While attending Oxford, Kris Kristofferson promoted himself as a Yank by recording music under the name Kris Carson. This was accomplished with the assistance of his manager, Larry Parnes. The early stages of his music career did not go well, even though he had high hopes that this would be beneficial to his singing career and eventually lead to him being a novelist. In 1960, he received his Bachelor of Philosophy degree in English literature, and in 1961, he tied the knot with Frances Fran Mavia Beer, the English literature student who had been his lover. The pressure that Kristofferson's family put on him led him to enlist in the United States Army, where he began as a second lieutenant and eventually became a captain. After finishing his training at Fort Rucker, Alabama, he went on to become a helicopter pilot. He also graduated from Ranger School. From the beginning of the 1960s until the early 1970s, he served with the 8th Infantry Division in West Germany. While everything was going on, he started performing music once more and eventually established a band. He was given the opportunity to teach English literature at West Point after completing his tour of duty in West Germany. However, he ultimately decided to quit the Army in order to concentrate on songwriting. Even though his family disowned him for this decision, which they interpreted as a rejection of their principles, Kristofferson has stated his pleasure in his service in the military. During the American Veterans Awards ceremony that took place in 2003, he was honored with the Veteran of the Year award. Will Kris put in the effort necessary to achieve success in the job he has chosen, despite the fact that his family has rejected him to pursue a career in music? Maintain your attention to discover out. Kris's early career. Following his discharge from the military in 1965, Kristofferson relocated to Nashville. Even though he was struggling with medical expenditures for his son's health, he had a difficult time finding success in the music industry and had to take on a variety of odd jobs to make ends meet. In 1968, he and his wife went through a divorce. The meeting between Kristofferson and June Carter took place at Columbia Recording Studios in Nashville, where Kristofferson was working as a floor sweeper. It was his request that she hand Johnny Cash a cassette recording of his songs. Even though she did, Cash simply added it to a large pile of other recordings. As an additional occupation, Kristofferson was employed by a firm in South Louisiana as a helicopter pilot. According to his recollection, he was seated on an oil platform. Furthermore, I jotted down Bobby McGee in that spot. The fact that Kristofferson landed a helicopter in Cash's front yard a few weeks after he had given Carter his cassettes was something that truly drew Carter's attention. Kristofferson subsequently stated that the claim that he showed there with a drink in one hand and songs in the other was not genuine. The story was about him turning up with a mixture of the two, adding, "If I'm being completely honest, I don't believe he was there. John has a memory that is quite unusual." On the other hand, Cash made the decision to record Sunday Morning Coming Down after hearing it again. The song was awarded Song of the Year at the Country Music Association Awards in 1970, and Kristofferson was the recipient of the honor. Vietnam Blues was a single that was released by Dave Dudley in 1966 and was a hit. It was written by Kristofferson. Kristofferson secured a recording contract with Epic Records in 1967 and released a song titled Golden Idol Killing Time. However, the track did not do well. The subsequent few years saw an increase in the number of songs written by Kristofferson that became popular when they were performed by other musicians, such as Roy Drewski, Billy Walker, Ray Stevens, Jerry Lee Lewis, Farron Young, and Roger Miller singing them. It was during the Newport Folk Festival that Johnny Cash presented him to the public, which ultimately led to his increased prominence as a musician. Janis Joplin, who had dated Kristofferson, achieved a #1 success with the song Me and Bobby McGee from her album Pearl, which was released after her passing in 1971. For a number of weeks, the song maintained its position at the top of the charts. Some of Kristofferson's songs were covered by Kenny Rogers, a country singer, in 1969. One of the songs that he recorded was Me and Bobby McGee, which was included on the original version of the album Ruby Don't Take Your Love to Town. In the year 1971, Kristofferson released his second studio album, which was titled The Silver-Tongued Devil and I. Not long after that, he made his debut as an actor in the film The Last Movie, which was directed by Dennis Hopper. He also had a performance at the Isle of Wight Festival. The collection titled The First Great Rock Festivals of the 1970s includes a portion of his performance that took place at that particular festival. In addition, he appeared in the film Cisco Pike and published his third album, Borderlord, in 1971. Although it had entirely new songs, it did not perform well in the marketplace. He was nominated for a number of Grammys that year, and he ended up winning the award for Country Song of the Year for his song, Help Me Make It Through the Night. Kristofferson's fourth studio album, titled Jesus Was a Capricorn, was released in 1972. The album's early sales were not very strong. Nevertheless, the third single from that album, titled Why Me, became a smash and contributed to an increase in sales. Over 1 million copies of the album were sold, and on the 8th of November 1973, the RIAA awarded it with a gold disc for its achievements. On the British television program The Old Grey Whistle Test, which aired in 1972, Kris Kristofferson and Rita Coolidge performed the song Help Me Make It Through the Night. On the album titled I'm Still in Love with You, which was published in the same year, Al Green included his rendition of the song For the Good Times. In the film Heaven's Gate, which was released in 1980 and directed by Michael Cimino, Kris Kristofferson was chosen to play the role of Sheriff James Averill. Despite the fact that the movie was a huge disaster at the time and was detrimental to Kristofferson's career in Hollywood, it was later praised by reviews from critics. In 1981, he appeared in the film Rollover, which was directed by Alan J. Pakula and starred Jane Fonda. He had starring roles in the films The Last Days of Frank and Jesse James, which was released in 1986, and Flashpoint, which was released in 1984, alongside Treat Williams. The following year, he had an appearance alongside Keith Carradine and Laurie Singer in the critically acclaimed neo-noir movie Trouble in Mind. Alongside Robert Urich and Christine Lottie, Kris Kristofferson played a starring part in the television series America during the year 1987. Together with Cheryl Ladd, he had a role in the film Millennium, which was released in 1989. During the year 1997, he appeared alongside Steven Seagal in the film Fire Down Below. In the film Blade, which was released in 1998, Kris Kristofferson played the role of Abraham Whistler, Blade's tutor. He then reprised the role in the film's sequels, Blade 2 in 2002 and Blade Trinity in 2004. In the same year, he also collaborated with Vanessa Williams and Cheyenne to feature in the film Dance With Me. He appeared alongside Mel Gibson in the film Payback and portrayed the role of rancher Rudolph Meyer in the film Molokai, which was based on the tale of Father Damien. He played an elderly guy named Johan in the Norwegian film Johan the Child Wanderer, which was released in 2001. He also had an appearance in the adaptation of Planet of the Apes that was directed by Tim Burton. He co-starred alongside Genevieve Bujold in the film Disappearances, which was released in 2006 and was about whiskey that was being transported from Quebec to the United States during the Great Depression. What kind of interpersonal connection do Willie and Kris have? Who or what may have been the cause of their meeting? In order to discover out, stay tuned. An American country music supergroup known as the Highwaymen was comprised of 4 of the most prominent personalities in the country music industry. They were instrumental in the development of the outlaw country style of music. Kris Kristofferson, Johnny Cash, Waylon Jennings, and Willie Nelson are some of the songwriters. The Highwaymen released 3 significant albums from 1985 to 1995, 2 of which were released by Columbia Records, and 1 of which was released by Liberty Records. Their albums released by Columbia resulted in 3 hit singles, one of which, Highwaymen, reached #1 on the charts in the year 1985. 7 of Louis L'Amour's short stories were included in the Louis L'Amour Collection, which was a 4-CD box set that was released between 1996 and 1998. The 4 artists contributed their voices to the collection. The Highwaymen, on the other hand, were not given credit for their work on this project. Johnny Rodriguez contributed Spanish vocals to the song Deport, which was written by Woody Guthrie and featured on the band's album Highwaymen. The other 4 members of the band provided the vocals. They also appeared together in the film Stagecoach, which was released in 1986. In 1990, the original members of a folk group that had the same name in the 1950s and 1960s filed a lawsuit against the Highwaymen for utilizing the moniker, which originated from a song that the country singers had recorded by Jimmy Webb as their inspiration. As a result of their agreement that the folk group was the owner of the name, the case was dismissed. However, the supergroup was granted permission to use the name without any restrictions. At a performance that took place in Hollywood in the year 1990, the duo of bands played together. In 1985, when the band was initially founded, they did not have a moniker that was officially associated with their first two albums that were issued by Columbia Records. When the four members got back together in 1990, they released their second album, which was titled Highwayman 2. The record was successful enough to reach number 4 on the country album chart. Silver Stallion. The first song, which was written by Lee Clayton, was successful enough to reach the top 40. In addition to being produced by Momon, the CD was also considered for a Grammy nomination in the category of Best Country Vocal Collaboration. 6 of the songs were either written by the members of the group or were co-authored by them. The Road Goes On Forever, which was produced by Don Was and published in 1995, was the final album that Jennings created and released under the moniker Highwayman before he passed away in 2002. In addition to the single It Is What It Is, the album includes a cover of a song that was originally performed by Robert Earl Keen. In the year 2005, a 10th anniversary edition of The Road Goes On Forever was made available to the public. Let's take a look at the reasons why Willie Nelson considers Kris Kristofferson to be the greatest songwriter of all time before we finally reveal the devastating truth about Kris Kristofferson. According to Willie Nelson, Kris Kristofferson is the most talented composer in the history of music. In an open and sincere interview, the legendary country music artist Willie Nelson offered his opinions on the best songwriters of all time. His top selection was none other than his old buddy Kris Kristofferson, who he considered to be the greatest one of all time. When Willie was asked to pick the finest songwriter in the history of the world, he did not hesitate to mention a few names that are absolutely legendary. Merle Haggard, Hank Williams, and Billy Joe Shaver were cited by him as being among the individuals who have the most talent. On the other hand, Kris Kristofferson was the one who captured his attention the most. As he continued, it became very evident that Kris Kristofferson was his ultimate decision, so establishing his status as Willie's top option for the most talented composer now in existence. The affection that Willie Nelson has for Kris Kristofferson is already well known. As they continued to work closely together and remain pillars of the country music industry over the course of their careers, it became clear that they possess a profound relationship and mutual regard for one another. The capacity of Kris Kristofferson to compose profoundly beautiful lyrics and melodies that have stood the test of time places him in a category all his own, according to Willie. Many of Kris Kristofferson's songs have been performed by Nelson, who is frequently heard extolling the greatness of Kristofferson's songwriting. Nelson reflected on his own remarkable career as a songwriter on many occasions over the course of the interview. It is he who has created some of the most lasting songs in the history of country music, including timeless classics such as Crazy, which Patsy Cline is famous for recording. Willie touched on some of his other classic compositions, such as Funny How Time Slips Away, which has also become a standard in the genre. Crazy was one of the songs that he mentioned. Despite Willie's kind and compassionate manner, the presenter stated that she was experiencing some anxiety while conversing with the iconic performer. To keep things lighthearted, they played a game called This or That, in which Willie was given the task of making a snap decision between two different possibilities. In response to the question of whether he follows his mind or his emotions, Willie straightforwardly stated that he relies on his intuition. The fact that he hesitated when asked to select between Austin and Maui demonstrates how much he adores both of these locations. He acknowledged the growing popularity of Maui by saying, "Texas is my home and there's no place better, but Maui is great too. I am aware of how popular Maui has become." While the conversation was coming to a close, Willie reminisced about the guitar that he is most famous for playing, Trigger, which he has been playing for many years. The presenter also mentioned that every one of them experienced chills as they picked up the legendary guitar. Willie expressed his gratitude to all of them, including the generous music great, for the good words they had shared with him. In the end, Willie Nelson's admiration for Kris Kristofferson is evident, even though his songwriting legacy cannot be refuted. When Willie referred to him as the greatest composer of all time, he was offering one of the highest compliments that a fellow artist could ever give. Let's go straight into the fact that has been proven, which is quite upsetting. Which tragic reality is going to be brought to light? Maintain your attention to discover out. Heartbreaking truth revealed. An 88-year-old Kris Kristofferson passed away at his home on the Hawaiian island of Maui, according to E.B. McFarland, a spokesman for the Kristofferson family. No cause of death was given, however. She did say he died quietly with his family at his side. Kristofferson, who had a photographic memory for William Blake's poetry, penned country songs with profound folk themes about love and isolation. In 2021, Kristofferson ceased all musical activity, including recording and performing, and thereafter made very few guest appearances. In 2023, at Willie Nelson's 90th birthday party in Los Angeles, Cash and Roseanne, Cash's daughter, performed a remarkable set. An old favorite of Nelson's and a smash for Kristofferson, "Loving Her Was Easier Than Anything I'll Ever Do Again," was among the songs they sang. Kristofferson had many other talents outside of music. Along with playing football, rugby, and boxing for the Golden Gloves in college, he was also an athlete. There were points when the Kristofferson stories looked exaggerated. According to Johnny Cash's colorful stories, Kristofferson once landed a helicopter on Cash's lawn while holding a drink to deliver a cassette of Sunday Morning Coming Down. Kristofferson subsequently said that although Cash's house was the landing spot for the helicopter, Cash wasn't there at the time. He was unable to pilot a helicopter while balancing a drink in his hand, and the demo tape belonged to an unrecorded song. If it weren't for Cash, Kristofferson claims he may not have achieved his professional success in a 2006 interview. According to him, "I resolved to return the minute I shook his hand backstage at the Grand Ole Opry while still serving in the Army. There was a buzz. Before he recorded any of my tracks, he almost adopted me. He took the recording of my year-opening single. I made my stage debut because of him." Fred Foster, founder of Monument Records, had an idea that would become one of his most popular songs, "Me and Bobby McGee." "Me and Bobby McGee" was the name of Foster's imaginary song about a secretary. Kristofferson said in an interview with Performing Songwriter magazine that the Federico Fellini film La Strada prompted him to compose the song about a couple on a road trip. Janis Joplin, who was friends with Kristofferson, recorded her version of "Me and Bobby McGee" days before she died of a drug overdose in 1970. She altered Bobby's gender in the lyrics. Following her passing, her recording became an instant classic. Forming the Highwaymen with fellow musicians Willie Nelson, Johnny Cash, and Waylon Jennings was a watershed point in Kristofferson's career. Unlike the other guys, Kristofferson admitted to the AP in 2005 that he was a fan of every single one of them before joining. "During my time in the Army, I held them in high regard. Their dedication to music made them my idols when I visited Nashville. It seemed surreal to be recorded by them, to be friends with them, and to collaborate with them. My visage looked like it belonged on Mount Rushmore." In 2005, Kristofferson brought up the fact that the band was considering reuniting with other musicians, such as George Jones or Hank Williams Jr., but he was of the opinion that it wouldn't be the same. Willie claims that was the happiest period of his life, and looking back, I can see why, Kristofferson stated in 2005. "I just wish I had realized how quickly that opportunity would pass. Even though it has been years, it seems like just a moment. I should cherish every minute." Willie Nelson is the only survivor of the four. How do you feel about the legendary friendship between Kristofferson and Willie Nelson? Feel free to leave a comment with your opinion in the comments section below. I am so grateful to have watched this video. Please leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed it. To see the latest video with your favorite celebrity, follow us. We will see you there.